I have one goal with this video, which is to make sure that you have the highest chance possible of landing the best high ticket sales role where you're actually able to make the money that you want to make. Because the thing that a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to high ticket sales is it's not just the skill set that you have. You can be the best closer possible, the best setter ever known to man. But if your offer sucks, you will make no money. It's like owning a Ferrari, but it's kept in a garage. Well, what's the point of having a Ferrari? You can't even drive it, you can't even enjoy it, right? You're not maximizing the use case of that Ferrari. In this case, you are the Ferrari. And I want to make sure that I put you on the best track humanly possible with the best weather, with the best tires, so you can actually enjoy the fruits of your labor. So, in this video, I'm going to break down a couple different things. The first of which is offer evaluation, meaning how do you actually determine if an offer is genuinely good? Because one thing a lot of people don't talk about is an offer can look good on paper, but it can actually be a horrible offer. So, how do you determine what is a good offer? How do you determine if the offer is actually what they say they are? So, that's the first part. The second part is going to be landing the actual sales role. So there's a couple different things that go into it. The first thing is having an insane application. Right? There's a lot that goes into that. So we're going to dive into every single one. I'm not holding anything back. I'm going to make sure you have everything you need. The second thing is how do you stand out before the interview? Everyone talks about the interview itself, but no one talks about how you can actually make a name for yourself and stand out before the actual interview, meaning you're going to have a massive advantage and a head start compared to everyone else who's doing the interview with you. The next part is going to be how do you stand out during the interview itself? Because a lot of people treat interviews like something super passive, right? You just hop on, you answer some questions, pray for the best. That's how you make sure you never land a good sales role. And then the other part is standing out after the interview. You've probably heard this saying, the money is in the follow-ups. The same thing applies to landing a sales role. The money is in the follow-ups. So how do you stand out actually? So how do you stand out after the interview so you stay top of mind and you have the highest chance of actually landing the sales role? And then the last part that I'm going to be talking about is social media. Now, this is something that is so understressed, something so overlooked, and it genuinely frustrates me because social media is the best way to make a massive first impression. And not only that, it is your key to unlocking the best offers possible. Because when it comes to high ticket sales, the offers where you're able to make $20, $30, $50,000 a month in straight commissions aren't just posted on a job board. If I have an offer where I know that my closer can make $50,000 a month, I'm not just going to put up a post saying, yo, I'm looking for an offer. I'm going to be looking within my network to see who can actually earn this role because I don't want to just give it to everyone, right? I want to make sure it stays exclusive. And this applies to anything in life as well. If you look at any corporation, for example, the top positions, if Apple is hiring for a CEO role, right, it's going to put up on LinkedIn a post saying, hey, we're hiring a CEO for Apple. No, it's all people that they know within their circle. So how do you get into those circles? And the best way to do that is through social media, which is what I'm going to be talking about. Now, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Aboud. I have ran a sales and marketing agency where we've done $10 million in online sales. I've managed over 400 salespeople at this point, and I've interviewed thousands and thousands of salespeople, whether that's group interviews, one-on-one interviews, setter, closer, does not matter. I've done a ton of these interviews, and I've also built a following of 14,000 followers on Instagram revolving around high ticket sales, where I get countless DMs and applications from people that want to work for the offers that I manage. So I'm not just giving you the perspective of someone who's been in sales and applied to roles. I'm going to give you the perspective of someone who actually does the interviews and the hiring process for these top tier offers. So I'll give you some examples of job offers just to show you what actually looks like a good offer versus an offer that maybe isn't something that you want to be a part of. And just for context, this is the internal job board that I have for the people that I coach who want to get into high ticket sales and get better at sales as well. So for example, let's say we choose this offer, right? Closers for women's finance offer. Fastest growing personal brands in the UK, blah, 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 blah. Ticket retainer 3 to 8K. For example, let's look at this offer, right? Closers for a fitness coaching offer. It advertises a 10K per month OTE, meaning the on-target earnings are $10,000. Now, Here's how you determine if this is a good offer versus a offer that, again, you want to probably stay away from. So, for example, the revenue is $70,000 a month. Now, right away, it's somewhat of a red flag because as a closer, typically you're making 10% commissions, right? If it's a really good offer, maybe even 12 to 15%. So if I'm making 10% commissions and my OTE is $10,000, that means that I have to be making $100,000 cash collected every single month to make 10K in commissions. But if the offer itself is only doing $70,000 a month, you already see the discrepancy there? Now, again, that's not to say that this is a horrible offer, that you can never 100% know for sure. But these are the things that you want to be looking for, right? So is there a discrepancy in what is being advertised versus the actual potential earnings? On the other hand, for example, full cycle reps and closers and setters for a done-for-you sales agency offer. Now, they're advertising $30,000 a month OTE, which is crazy, right? This is like an A-tier offer, supposedly. But here's the thing, they're doing $12 million a month. So for me to make 30K, again, assuming 10% commissions, I need to be bringing in $300,000 a month as a closer, right? But if the offer is doing $12 million, that's barely anything. 300K divided by 12 million. I'm not the best at math. Can't do the math off the top of my head, but let's just calculate it right now. That's only 2.5% of the company's revenue. Now, this is a lot more believable versus $100,000 cash collected and the company's doing 70K. So again, this isn't, a hard rule, but this is something that you want to look out for when applying for an actual high-ticket sales role. Now, that's just one thing that you want to look out for. A couple other things that you want to keep in mind. First of all, does the company, the offer itself, have a structure with the team? This is probably one of the biggest tells when it comes to figuring out if an offer is genuinely good or if it's just a bunch of garbage. The reason being is because if an offer is actually dialed in, right, they are making the money that they claim to make, they're operating at the scale that they claim, if they have a massive company structure, a hierarchy with the sales team, with the operations, the fulfillment, the marketing, you don't get to that level by mistake. You get there by making enough money to actually afford to hire all these people within the company. So if they have that structure, amazing. If they don't, let's say they only have like one setter, the setter is the offer owner's like nephew, they have one closer who has no sales experience, the offer owner is the guy who's also managing the sales team and doing the hiring and the fulfillment, chances are you want to avoid those offers. That's not to say those offers, you should never work with those offers because they do have their own pros, right? Just want to keep that in mind. But for the most part, if you're landing a killer role, that is not where you want to be. The other part of what makes an offer actually good, and this is something that no one ever talks about when it comes to high ticket, but it's the fulfillment. If you're making $1 million a month, supposedly, but your dispute rate is 15-20%, something isn't adding up, right? What that means is A, you're going to deal with a lot of clawbacks. B, you're working with someone who doesn't have a good reputation. And if you're associated with them, now your reputation is tarnished, which you never want. And C, if their fulfillment isn't good and they're not even delivering to the people who are paying them money, what's to say that they're not going to screw you out of your own commissions or mistreat you or go back on their word? So fulfillment, make sure it's super dialed in. And you want to make sure that you actually figure out if they have good fulfillment, which I'll explain to you how in a few minutes. The other part of figuring out whether an offer is actually good or not is simply just talking to reps on the team. If you're able to, right? Maybe on Instagram, if you find someone, maybe if you see their name pop up somewhere, right? Network with those people and actually ask them, how has your experience been working with XYZ offer? If they're super happy with the offer, they're making good money, their commissions are great, everything's stable, good training, incredible. If not, again, chances are not a good offer. Now, what about what's happening inside the actual offer, right? These are all things from the outside. But let's say, for example, everything checks out from the outside, you land the offer, and now you want to make sure it actually looks good on the inside. Because again, you never know for sure until you're actually in the role. So what are some things that you should look for? First of all, the onboarding process. If you land the role and they're like, hey, you're about to go live in 10 minutes, run. There's no strict onboarding process where they walk you through everything you need to know. The ICP, the frameworks, the objections they get, the commission structure, right? If they're very shady with the commission structure, not a good offer. But if they're very clear about everything, super detailed, super structured, like we talked about earlier, right? Team structure also applies to the onboarding structure. If it's very laid out, very clear, that's a very good sign. It's a green flag. Now, aside from that, you want to look at the management, right? How does the management operate? Because the one thing about high ticket sales is a lot of managers are honestly very unqualified to be managers. They genuinely should not be in any management position. So, how does your manager treat you? Is he always attacking you, belittling you? Is he always talking in a demeaning tone? Or are they people that are genuinely invested in your success? They always want to make sure that you have the support that you need to keep moving up. Do they work with you or do they work against you? Right? And chances are, if you don't feel like they have your best interests at heart, not a good offer. Another thing you want to look for is the lead flow, right? This is one that we're all terrified of, leads, which is, does the offer that you are on actually have consistent quality lead flow? Now, I want to make this very clear. No offer is perfect, right? No offer has 100% quality leads all the time with no fluctuations. That does not exist. That marketing is an art, it's a skill. And markets change, the economy changes, people's buying behavior changes. There's a lot of variables. So naturally, there will always be some highs and lows. But if it's consistent for the most part, that's a green flag. If the lead quality is consistent for the most part, that's also a green flag. But on the other hand, if you're noticing that every other day we're getting such a big variation in the lead quality, one day we're getting the best leads, the other day it's all broke people who have nothing to do with what we sell, the lead quantity dips a lot, right? That's also a red flag. If you have one day with 100 leads, another day with 4 leads, and it's just always up and down, not somewhere you want to be. Now that's it with regards to offer evaluation, right? How do you figure out if an offer is genuinely good versus if it's something that you want to run away from? Now the next part is landing the actual sales role. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is, how do you craft a killer Loom application? This is probably my favorite topic because I have been DM'd probably 1,000 Looms at this point. Full transparency, probably like 96% of them are just absolute garbage. No offense to anyone who's watching this who sent me a Loom where I haven't, given you feedback. Chances are it's because it's horrible. But I want to make sure that you understand how to film a proper Loom video, because this is your first impression before anything else. What most hiring managers do, to give you that insight into how they think, when they are hiring for a role, you got to realize that they're getting so many applications, especially if it's an actual killer sales role, right? They're getting hundreds and hundreds of applications. So the way that they want to treat Loom videos is very similar to social media, in the sense that when you're on Instagram, when you're on TikTok and you're just scrolling through, the first few seconds of any video, you're determining, is this video worth me watching, right? The hook of the video. Same exact thing applies to your Loom. If the first few seconds of your Loom are signaling to someone that, this isn't a good candidate, they're not going to even watch the rest of the video. They do not care. Because again, they're choosing from a place of abundance. So you always want to think about your Loom video in a way where, how do I captivate the person watching this? How do I make sure that they stay engaged no matter what, so that once they watch this Loom video, they want to have a conversation with me? That's all you're thinking about. And the way you do that has a couple different pieces. The first is your appearance. If you film a Loom video on your phone, you are telling the hiring manager, I don't want a job. You never ever film a Loom video on your phone, always on laptop. Second thing, dress appropriately. The amount of people who have sent me Looms shirtless is genuinely mind-blowing. Who in the world told you it's a good idea to present yourself to someone who you are asking for a job shirtless? Bro, I am not your girl. Why the hell are you sending me a video shirtless, right? I am someone who's looking to bring you on and make you money. So why are you shirtless? Or they'll be in a wife beater or some crazy thing, but you want to make sure that you come off as presentable. Wear a nice dress shirt, a nice polo if you don't have a dress shirt, a suit, right? Stand out, look presentable. It's your first impression. So make sure that you look the part. If I can't even trust that you can't even look presentable, how am I going to trust that you can actually perform the job properly? Make sure you have a good background, right? If you're filming a Loom video in your childhood bedroom and you have your boxers hanging somewhere behind you and you have a poster of some crazy, like, I don't know, like a naked girl, something weird in the background. Like, why are you showcasing that, right? Make sure you have a nice background. If you don't have a nice view, right, that's fine. Even just a white wall behind you with no distractions, that's perfectly fine. Make sure that you have a nice camera. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, right? You could technically, just get a webcam, like something cheap, $50, $75 with some higher quality resolution, right? Present yourself a bit nicer. You can use whatever you want. Make sure you have good lighting, right? Again, you can buy a ring light off Amazon for like 15 bucks. Like, don't cheap out, because again, this is your first impression. Those first few seconds could be the difference in you making 20K a month versus making no money. So you might as well put in that extra piece of effort to actually stand out. Now, that's with regards to your appearance. So, how do you actually make sure that the content of the Loom video is valuable enough and does most of the selling so that whoever is watching it wants to speak with you? The biggest piece of advice I can give you when it comes to Loom videos and the content of them is make it personalized. Now, I understand a lot of you are busy, you have a lot of things coming up, and it's just unrealistic for you to apply to every single role that you come across with a very personalized, in-depth video. It doesn't have to be to that extent, but just add a touch of personalization. For example, if I'm applying to an Amazon offer and it's called Amazon FBA community, whatever, right? And I have the manager's name as well. Let's say his name is John. I'd be like, hey, John, I'm very interested in applying to Amazon FBA community. That's it. You don't have to look up his whole life story and make it super personal. Like, it doesn't have to be like that. But that small touch shows that you actually put in the effort to make it personalized. Because again, most people will send you a Loom video and you'll watch the Loom video and it says it has 400 views. And in that same Loom video with 400 views, you're talking about how you want to work with me specifically and how my offer stood out to you. Me or the 399 other people that you sent this to as well, right? But if someone sends you a Loom video like, hey, Abood, I noticed that you're hiring for XYZ offer. I want to work with you because XYZ. I know that you're being genuine. Even if you don't actually mean it, I don't care. But you took those steps to make it a bit more personalized. So now I'm a lot more engaged with you. So that's the first thing. Now, the actual content of the Loom. The first thing is the hook. Because again, when you're applying for a role, everyone is applying for this role. So you're competing against hundreds and hundreds of people. So like we talked about social media, right? How do you have a hook that's so strong that makes the person watching the Loom want to continue watching it? For example, I was talking to this guy the other day, and he came from a biochemistry background, got into high ticket sales, got some really good numbers under his belt, and now he's looking for a really good role because, quite frankly, he outgrew the offer he was on. So the way I told him to structure the hook, and this is just an example, but I want you to understand the reasoning behind it so you can apply it to yourself. The hook was how studying bacteria helped me generate $1 million in 6 months. Now, you might be thinking, what the hell does that have to do with high ticket sales? And that's exactly the point, because when I watched that Loom and I watched those first few seconds, I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about, right? That's the whole point, because now I'm engaged. I want to watch the rest of this Loom video to understand what the hell does bacteria have to do with generating $1 million in 6 months. And then he explained his story and tied it into how it made him such a good closer and helped him, develop a strong work ethic. And that's why he would be the perfect fit for the team, because he's going to make sure that he implements that team work ethic into their offer and make them a lot more money. So it's almost like a story. And with that story, you always want to keep tying in what's in it for them. It's never about you, right? No one cares about you. I mean this in the most respectful way. If someone's hiring for a role, they genuinely do not care about your existence. All they care about are two things. A, what value do you provide, right? AKA, how much money can you make me? And B, how do you minimize my risk? Because from a hiring manager's perspective, what I care about is, if I hire you, what are the chances of me messing up? Because if it's high, I don't want to hire you, because now I've wasted time, I've wasted money, I have to hire someone else, ramp them up, too much of a headache. And if you show me that you are someone who can minimize my risk, and you do that by showcasing your experience, your why, right? Talk about why you want the role, not just something very surface level. You talk about how you are actually the best fit for this role, you've minimized my risk. And on top of that, if you talk about the value you can provide, right? If you have really strong numbers, which I hope you do if you're applying for a killer role, talk about that, right? Talk about how those numbers have been generated in multiple different offers, right? Different conditions, difficult leads, whatever the case is. Because that shows me that I have a very high chance of making a lot of money with my offer if I hire you. That's exactly what I look for. So as long as you can showcase that you can A, minimize the risk, and B, provide value, that is a killer Loom video. Make sure you have a strong hook, and make sure, again, that story that you talk about in the hook always ties into what's in it for the person that you are applying to. So just to show you live what an actual good Loom looks like and how to make it even better, I'm gonna be reviewing a Loom with you guys, and this person doesn't even know that I'm reviewing their Loom. It's actually someone that I know personally. Great guy, great closer, incredible experience, but I want to show you exactly how you can I want to show you exactly what to use in your Loom video to stand out and how you can make it a top tier Loom video so strong that no one can choose to ignore your video anymore. They have to watch it.
Hey Liam, how's it going? My name is Leo, and Abu tells me you're looking for an elite closer to bring onto the team. So let me explain to you exactly why I'm the right fit for you. As I said, my name is Leo. I'm 21 years old, and I'm from the UK in Birmingham. Now, I've been in space a little over 4 years. I started as a DM setter where I did like 400k cash collected. I then went on to be an SDR where I did 700.
So, like we talked about, the hook is decent, right? Abu mentioned that you're looking for a killer closer. You know, here's why I'm your guy, essentially, right? Could be a bit stronger. Like, hey, Liam, who is the hiring manager in this scenario, right? Heard you're looking for a killer closer. Your top closer brought in 100k last month. Here's why I'm going to bring in $300,000. Very bold statement. I want to watch more. I want to understand who is this guy with this much confidence and can he actually back it up? I'm captivated.
100k cash collected on an e-commerce offer. I then moved to a manager on the offer where we were doing 350k consistently. After that, the offer shut down. I then went into closing where I did 1.8 million cash collected. 1.3 of that was from a marketing offer where we help people go into growth operating, help current growth operator scale, and also get people into growth operating and the whole marketing side of things in info. And then I did trading role where I was also managing the team as well. I actually grew into the manager. However, as a closer on that offer, which was BT, helping people get better at trading and get into trading, which was bizarre. I did 400k cash collected. So 1.7 million all in, 700k as an SDR. I don't really count management. However, I have managed 3 teams. One of those was a fitness offer doing 150k a month where we had 3 to 4 closers at a time, and then another 6 or 7 setters. Some of them being SDRs, some of them being DM setters. Also managed a trading offer, as I said, but there were 2 other closers below me. And also, obviously.
So far, incredible experience. These numbers are solid, right? A couple 100,000 here, a million here, etc. Manage some teams, etc. Great resume. Now, the thing that's missing from this, the thing that will take it from good to great, is A, what have you learned from all these experiences? Because numbers are great, but I needed more personalized, I needed more tangible, right? So what I would say is, for example, I've collected X amount of cash, I've managed teams, I've done X, Y, Z, and what it's taught me is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Tangible skill sets that you can showcase because, again, it's a story, right? Your experience, what you've learned from that experience, and then most importantly, what you've learned and how it can contribute to the person that you are sending the Loom video to. That's the missing piece here. So far, right, all we've seen is that this guy has great experience, which again is not bad, right? This is a good Loom video, right? Especially with the numbers he has. But we don't want to be good. We want to be excellent. Because again, a lot of people are applying for offers. And every time you increase the quality just a tiny bit, even if it's just 1%, the chances of you landing that role are now significantly higher.
The e-commerce offer where I was head SDR doing 350k a month. Now, I've also had a coaching program where I've trained and successfully helped over 50 guys get into remote sales and train them to a very high level. Multiple of those guys have got to 15, 20k a month, which I'm very, very proud of. However, my coaching, it's just not really where my focus lies anymore. My account keeps getting restricted on Instagram. And for me, I just want one focus. I really do enjoy closing as long as it is with the right.
So this was good, right? He has a sales coaching program. He shut it down and he explained why. Because again, from a hiring manager perspective, there's a gap there. If you have a sales coaching program, why would you want to take a step back into closing? And he explained why.
I'm looking for something long term where I can grow as a person as well, because I think that's very, very valuable, and obviously help you guys make as much money as possible. Now, look, I also understand the marketing side of things and how a business needs to operate to get to that high level. I do multiple $1 million per month. The speed that's needed, the consistency, the feedback loops, the training. And for me, I've always had a very obsessive personality where my craft every single day is getting 1% better. And if that means you're doing the long hours, I've always been a guy that works very, very long hours, as long as it's, as I said, for the right company, where it's recognized, and the results show for that type of work. Now, as I said, I'm really looking for something long term.
Again, not bad, right? But it's just that missing piece. What do you offer to the person that you're applying to? Because so far, what I've seen is how you minimize the person's risk, right? You have the experience, you've done sales coaching, you've explained why you've dropped that, you have insight into marketing, amazing. But what's in it for me, right? How do you apply all these things and tell it in a story where I understand now this is exactly what I'm getting from you? Now, again, this is a guy who I know personally, incredible guy, right? But this is just an example to show you how you go from good to excellent. Because if you're applying against 500 people, just as an example, you don't want to just be good. You don't want to be in the top 20%. You want to be in the top 0.1% because that's where you land those killer offers. Now we've talked about the Loom. So So I'll move on to the next thing, which is how do you stand out before the actual interview? This is something that's extremely overlooked when it comes to high ticket sales, but honestly, it's one of the most highest leverage plays that you can possibly do because you now have a head start. So, how do you stand out before an interview? The easiest way and the best way with the most impact is the following: figure out as much as you can about the offer and about the person that you're going to be speaking with, whether it's the recruiter, the hiring manager, the sales manager, I don't care. Figure out as many details as possible. Stalk them if you have to. Look them up on every social media app. Go look at everything they've ever done online and build this picture of who they really are. And what you want to do is you want to send a very personalized message to this person. Now, the key is making sure that they actually see your message. So if you DM them on Instagram, right, follow up. If you want to email them with a very interesting headline, again, to captivate their attention. Get creative, right? This is how you really stand out in this space. So get creative, try different things. Don't come off in a goofy way, because again, your reputation, but make sure that you catch their attention, right? Comment on their videos, like their posts, tag them in a story, right? Different ways where it's like, no, who is this guy? Why is he hitting me up so much before the interview? Because if you're putting in this much effort before I've even spoken to you, that speaks volumes about your character. So figure out a way to craft a personalized message before the interview and let them know about you beforehand. The same concept as a Loom where it's all about them. Make sure you apply that in your outreach before the interview. Now, let's say you're on the interview, right? You've made it this far. Good for you. How do you stand out? The one thing that you want to think about in an interview, whether it's a group call or a one-on-one, I'm going to break down both, is it is a sales call, right? It is not just an interview. It's not just the person asking you questions and you just sitting in the background be passive. No, it is a sales call. And what I mean by that is you have a responsibility to do discovery. Ask them questions, important questions that you need to know about the offer, about what they're looking for, and make sure that you pitch yourself and you position yourself as the best candidate possible. Because again, I've done thousands of interviews, and most of the time, no one asks questions. Massive red flag. Like, do you genuinely not want to know anything about the offer, about the role that you're supposedly going to be sticking to for a year or 2 years? Because that's the case, it doesn't add up, right? So, some question that you can ask on an interview: what are you looking for in a setter or closer, whatever the role is? What do you consider to be a successful hire, let's say 6 months down the line? Like, get very specific answers. Who is your top setter or closer, and why are they at the top? Who is your bottom, or sorry, who are some people that you fired in the past, and why have you fired them? Right, more tangible. Get all these responses and pitch yourself accordingly. Whatever they say about the top setter or closer, position yourself accordingly. Whatever they say about a successful hire, position yourself accordingly. Right, make sure that you're showcasing that, hey, everything you're looking for, I have it. Right, and when you do that, again, you stand out. Now, on a group interview, how do you stand out? Because again, it's slightly different from a one-on-one. With a group interview, a couple things. First of all, try your best to always be proactive. Meaning, if it's an open floor, right, ask as many questions as possible and be the first to ask questions. That's the first thing. Second thing is do not yap. That is the most frustrating thing when someone goes on and on and on about an answer for like 3 minutes. We don't have time, it's limited. Make sure your answers are very concise, very articulate, and just straight to the point, right? Deliver the message and deliver it efficiently. And the last thing, and one that's very overlooked, is showcase that you're a team player, right? At the start of the interview, before they actually start the interview, try to network with people there, right? Because if I join, let's say I'm hosting a group interview, I join 1 or 2 minutes late, for example, right? And I see John is already talking to all these different people, sparking up conversations. Who is this guy, right? He's the one who's actually engaging with the room. You've already caught my attention. I haven't even spoken to you yet, right? So make sure you build that environment where you showcase, like, I'm someone who brings people together. I'm a team player. And I would say those are the most important things that you can implement when it comes to group interviews. Now, one-on-one, what I talked about with regards to treating it like a sales call, that is a lot more applicable to one-on-one interviews. A lot more, because now it's a lot more intimate, right? So similar advice to the things that we talked about previously. Research the person beforehand. Ask them for material, even if they haven't sent you. Hey, what can I take a look at before the actual interview, right? Show them that you're excited to speak with them beforehand, right? Show them that you're proactive. On the interview, come prepared with lots of good questions. Very similar to the questions that we just talked about, right? Bombard them with questions. It shows that you're engaged, you're interested, right? They're not just hiring you, you're also joining them. It's a two-way relationship, so treat it like one. Make sure that you do that and position yourself accordingly. And if you do that correctly, right, you will stand out during interviews. And obviously the basic stuff applies as well, similar to the Loom, which is, dress appropriately, make sure you have a nice background. I had a guy with a background talking about, there's like a Pizza Hut poster. Instead of Pizza Hut, it said Pizza Nut. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, this is something crazy to me, right? How do you possibly join an interview with something like that in the background? And he thought it was funny, but obviously the guy didn't get the role. But that's besides the point, right? Good camera, good mic quality, etc. But that's pretty much it when it comes to standing out during the actual interview. Now the interview is done. How do you stand out after the interview? I cannot tell you the amount of people who I have interviewed who have never said anything after the interview. Nothing. I've never heard from them. Now, this isn't coming from a place of ego where I want you to follow up with me. That's not the case. Again, you got to understand that hiring managers, sales managers, they're very busy people and they're dealing with a lot of people. So not only are you competing against other applicants, you're actually competing for their attention. That's why we have the sequence where you want to stand out before the interview, during the interview, and now after the interview, because you always want to stay top of mind. It's very similar to how marketing works, right? Let's say any fast food company, any big corporation, right? What they do when they market, especially when they use like a mascot or whatever, it's simply because they want to make sure that you are always thinking of them when you're thinking of buying whatever product they sell, right? If I'm looking to buy cleaning products, I think of Mr. Clean because he's some bald, muscular guy. Like, who the hell is this, right? But I've seen him so much and they've won my attention. So you want to implement those same things when it comes to interviews, because if I interviewed 100 people or I spoke to 100 people, but John kept showing up before the interview, had an insane Loom video, kept texting me during the interview, talking to people, asking insane questions, the one-on-one interview, even more questions that he came prepared with, right? Research myself, research things about me after the interview, following up, texting me. Like, how can I ignore John, right? I'm compelled to hire you because you're just so top of mind, to the point where even if someone else was a more qualified candidate, you stood out so much and you won my attention over so much that I'll just give you the offer instead, right? So figure out how to stand out after the interview. Right after the interview, send a message thanking them for that opportunity. Hey, it was great learning about you and XYZ company. Very excited to learn more about the offer and next steps, right? They don't answer, follow up again and again and again and again. Do not stop until you get a response, even if it's no. That's pretty much it when it comes to landing the role, right? The interview process. Now, the final piece of all of this is social media. Now, like I said very early on, these high-level A-tier offers, they're not usually publicized, right? These are within circles, like we talked about, the CEO of Apple. You're not gonna find it on LinkedIn or Indeed, right? You're not gonna see someone putting up a story on Instagram saying, hey guys, I'm looking for a CEO for Apple. Do you know anyone? No, it's inside circles that you are not in. So what you want to do with social media, this isn't a content creation masterclass. This is a very surface level. And if you guys do want something a lot more in-depth when it comes to content and building a brand in sales, let me know, and I'm more than happy to do so. But a couple basic things, right? I'm going to show you on my screen as well what that looks like. So for example, this is someone who I have no clue who this person is, full transparency. But I just looked up appointment setter and this person popped up, right? Which is something a lot of hiring managers actually do, which is they'll look up appointment setter or closer on Instagram to see who they can actually reach out to and interview. So a couple of things that I really like about this person's page. First of all, the headline, right? The bio or whatever they want to call it. High ticket appointment setter, right? You're now searchable. So if someone is searching and they see this, you already have an advantage, right? Their bio, remote sales, high ticket appointment setter. Not bad. DM to connect, call to action, good. The only thing I would add is any sort of credibility. If you have any cash collected, you have any experience, whatever it is, mention it. And if you don't have any, what I would put is your why, right? I want to see right away why you're in an appointment setting or closing if you have no experience, right? Something personalized, something tangible that can make me connect with you on a deeper level. And again, keep me engaged, right? Profile picture, not bad. You want to have a very professional profile picture. something that really captivates your face and again, just more presentable, right? Content, things about, I'm assuming, high ticket sales space, right? This looks like someone who's slightly a beginner. Yeah, I've done 160 plus cold calls, so somewhat of a beginner, pretty new, but it's personalized. I'm getting to know who this person is. I have insight into them. Right? It goes back to what we talked about in the Loom video, minimizing risk, providing value. If I understand why you're doing what you're doing, it could minimize my risk, right? Work, blah, blah, blah. Again, they're just posting some posts, not bad, nothing crazy, and you don't need anything crazy, right? This isn't a masterclass, like I said. For example, look at some of the highlights. My latest offer, they are showcasing their work ethic. I don't really understand what this is. Target is 50. I don't know if they hit the target. Oh, here you go. Achieved 15, 34, 49, 77. Again, full transparency, these numbers suck, right? You haven't hit target most of the days, but you're vulnerable, right? You're not lying. You're not fluffing up your numbers, right? You're posting pictures of you actually doing the work, right? You're on calls, mock calls, right? You're actually practicing, right? This is incredible. This is exactly what I want to see. Q&A with me, whatever that is, training, right? I can see that you're actually putting in effort, showing up to training calls with your mentor. This is incredible, right? Working, talking about things that you're interested in, stuff that you're doing, amazing. Again, this is a person with barely any experience. They're not even hitting KPIs, but I don't care because I've already gotten to know you on a much deeper level compared to most applicants. And if you have a good page, right, and you showcase the right things, like the things that we just talked about, if you apply to a job offer, right, and you DM the person, you're showing up, and you have this page that's well thought out, you have some content up there, you have some highlights showing why you do this, you're showing you doing mock calls, trainings, sharing your takeaways, right? Even if you have no experience, right? It's incredible. Now, if you do have experience, you have so much more leverage. You have proof, you have credibility. Post testimonials, post proof of closes, post sales calls, post whatever. I want as much proof as possible. The quality doesn't even matter. It can be a screenshot of a payment notification. I don't care. But if you have 1,000 of, 1,000 screenshots of payment notifications, I can't ignore that anymore. I have to acknowledge that this guy has experience, right? This person is an actual closer, right? Commission sheets, commission payouts, whatever. Just so much social proof because again, everyone fluffs things up. So I need to make sure I can actually see that you are who you say you are. Having said all of that, I think this is a good stopping point for us to wrap this video up because there's a lot that we went over. There's still a lot that I can talk about, but I wanted to make sure that I give as much value as humanly possible. If you have any questions, if there's something that you want me to talk about more in depth with regards to, landing a killer sales role, please let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments or DM me as well. And I will see you guys in the next video.